That's cute, sweetheart. Where'd you print this one? He holds it between his thumb and index finger like it's something he found on the floor of a gas station bathroom. Tilts it toward the streetlight. His partner leans against the cruiser, arms folded, watching with the particular expression of someone who is entertained. This says FBI. Officer Dale Pruitt reads it aloud the way a kindergarten teacher reads a word the child has clearly sounded out wrong. Special Agent. That's a good one. Real creative. Doctor. Celeste Mora does not move. Her hands are at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel of her dark blue government-issue Crown Victoria. Her credentials, the real ones, the ones issued in the field office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation on the 14th floor of a downtown federal building, are resting on the roof of the car where Pruitt set them down, so he could use both hands to examine them skeptically. Officer, her voice is level. Quieter than his. I was issued that credential in 2009. My field office number is on the back. You are welcome to call it. Pruitt doesn't call it. He smirks. He lets the credential badge case fall onto the roof of the car and makes a sound that is not quite a laugh. Something smaller, something more private. Driving a government car. Huh. You rent that for the weekend? His partner snorts. Celeste Mora's hands remain at 10 and 2. She is counting. Not the seconds. Not her breath. She is counting violations. Improper stop. Failure to articulate reasonable suspicion. Derision toward a federal officer in the execution of her duties. That is 3. She is just getting started. Step out of the vehicle, Pruitt says. We're going to need to run your plates. She opens the door. 2 men are walking past on the sidewalk. One of them pulls out his phone. He doesn't intervene. He films, and he smirks. The other, older, suit jacket over his arm, slows down, sees the cruiser, sees Officer Pruitt, and nods once, the nod of a man who thinks, good, they're on top of it. Across the street, a woman in scrubs speeds up. She keeps her eyes forward. She does not look back. He has no idea, because the woman he just called sweetheart and mocked for carrying fake credentials is a 19-year veteran of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the fastest phone in her purse goes directly to the office of the director of the FBI. And in 47 minutes, Dale Pruitt's captain is going to receive a phone call he will describe, years later, as the worst moment of his professional life. He just doesn't know it yet. But this story doesn't start here. Rewind 14 hours. Rewind 19 years. Rewind to a girl from the 9th Ward of New Orleans who watched her mother work double shifts at Tulane Medical Center and still come home to help with the civics homework. Because she understood, before she had the words for it, that the gap between who you are and what the world assumes about you is closed by one thing only: knowledge. Documented. Irrefutable. Yours. Celeste Ann Mora is 44 years old. She has been with the FBI's Public Corruption Unit since 2007, following 2 years in the White Collar Crime Division and a stint in the New Orleans field office that began the week after Katrina, when the city was still pulling bodies from attics. She has a law degree from Howard University, a master's in forensic accounting from George Washington, and 17 commendations in 19 years of federal service, 4 of which are classified. She is not a name most people know. That is by design. She runs investigations that end careers. She does not do press conferences. She does not do interviews. She does not appear in the photographs that get taken when the handcuffs go on. She is already 2 states away, building the next case. Her colleagues call her the architect. Her supervisor, the special agent in charge of the Washington field office, has said in 2 separate evaluations that Celeste Mora is the most dangerous person in federal law enforcement that no one has ever heard of. She is in this city for one reason She is 3 weeks into a wiretap authorization that, if it holds, will bring federal charges against a sitting city council member, 2 real estate developers, and a deputy sheriff. She is staying at a Marriott Courtyard under a different name. She is driving a government pool car with Virginia plates. She was returning from a late surveillance run, a parking lot off Industrial Boulevard, a meeting between 2 people who do not know they are being watched, when Dale Pruitt's unit spotted a black woman in a government car and decided that did not add up. On the dashboard of Celeste's Crown Victoria, in a small notebook with a black cover, is a running log she has kept since 2004. Every stop, every double take, every man in a uniform who looked at her credentials and looked at her face and then looked at her credentials again, as though one of those things must be wrong. The log has 47 entries. Tonight will make 48. Officer Dale Pruitt has been with the department for 11 years. He has a commendation for distinguished service. He has been named Officer of the Month 4 times. He is in the running for a supervisory role that would put him in charge of a patrol division covering 2 of the city's highest crime zip codes. His captain, Captain Richard Odom, has personally championed his promotion in 2 separate departmental reviews. Pruitt also has 9 documented complaints against him. Unlawful stops, excessive force, threatening language, racial profiling. All 9 were investigated by the department's Internal Affairs Unit, which in this city is staffed by officers who report to the same chain of command as the officers they investigate. All 9 were dismissed. 3 of them, in 2017, 2019, and 2021, were dismissed by a reviewing officer who is Captain Odom's brother-in-law. The system did not just fail to stop Dale Pruitt. The system built him, commended him, promoted him, and on a Tuesday night in October, it sent him to stop a government Crown Victoria on a quiet stretch of road and asked the woman driving it where she stole it. At the curb, in the wash of the cruiser's light, Celeste stands with her hands visible, palms raised, everything by the book. Pruitt's partner, Officer James Colt, 6 months on the job, old enough to know what he is watching, stands 3 feet back and says nothing. "You're going to come sit in the cruiser while we run the plates," Pruitt says. Standard procedure. Officer Pruitt. She has read his nameplate. "You have not stated a reason for the stop. You have not articulated any grounds for detainment. I am a federal agent in the execution of official duties. I am asking you one more time to call my field office." Pruitt looks at Colt. The look says, "You believe this? Ma'am, if you don't comply right now, we are going to have a different conversation." She complies. She gets in the back of the cruiser. She sets her phone face down on her knee. She presses the button on the side, the one that activates the contact labeled Darren, and she holds it for 2 seconds. That contact is not in her name. It is not labeled with a title. But the number it dials goes to a personal cell phone, the personal cell phone of the Deputy Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who is currently in a meeting at Quantico, who steps out of that meeting in approximately 4 minutes when he sees who is calling, and who places his own call, the call that initiates the chain, within 90 seconds of answering. Pruitt, in the front seat, is running her plates. The plates come back clean. Government pool car, Virginia, FBI field operations. He stares at the screen. His partner stares at the screen. "Could be a stolen government vehicle," Pruitt says. Colt says nothing. Call it in. 31 minutes remaining. In the parking lot of a Walgreens 3 blocks away, a woman named Sandra Mora, Celeste's wife, a retired Army counterintelligence officer who spent 21 years doing to military bad actors what Celeste does to civilian ones, receives a single text message. It contains 2 words and a location pin. She has received this message before. She knows exactly what it means. She is in her rental car and moving in 45 seconds. She does not call Celeste back. She calls a number she has memorized. She gives a situation report in 3 sentences, all of which are precise. She ends the call and presses record on her phone as she pulls around the corner and spots the cruiser's lights. She parks. She does not get out. She films. Inside the federal building on the 14th floor, the duty agent who receives the field office alert cross references the plate number and gets a result that makes him sit up very straight in his chair. He calls his supervisor. His supervisor calls the special agent in charge. The special agent in charge is on the phone with the deputy director before the clock hits 20 minutes. On the sidewalk, Pruitt has come back to the cruiser window. He is holding Celeste's credential case again. He has called it in. The dispatcher confirmed FBI credentials, Virginia plates, field operations. Pruitt is now in the particular position of a man who has gone too far to stop and not far enough to succeed. "We're going to need you to come to the station," he says. "Verify some things." "Officer Pruitt." Her voice has not changed. Not once. "I want you to understand what is happening right now. Not as a warning, as a fact. The moment I activated my emergency contact, a documentation chain began at the federal level. Everything that occurs from this point is being logged in real time. You are welcome to take me to the station." He does. He tells Officer Colt to follow in the Crown Victoria. On the way, he calls his partner to the front seat. He says, quietly but not quietly enough, "She's going to be real embarrassed when this shakes out." He is thinking about his supervisory review. He is thinking about the story he will tell at the precinct bar on Friday. He is not thinking about the 4 calls that have already been made in the past 11 minutes, or the 2 that are about to be. 19 minutes remaining. The station is quiet at this hour. 2 officers at the desk. A sergeant behind the glass who watches Pruitt bring Celeste in, clocks her posture, straight, unhurried, hands at her sides, and then looks back at his paperwork with the expression of a man who would like to be somewhere else. Pruitt signs Celeste in, lists the reason for detainment as suspected impersonation of a federal officer, and walks her to a room with a metal table and 2 chairs. He is smiling when he does it. Small and tight, but a smile. In the parking lot outside, Sandra Mora is on her second call. This one is to a journalist, a national affairs correspondent who covered the Justice Department for 11 years and who has 2 phone numbers for the FBI press office and 1 number that is better than both of them. Sandra does not say much. She gives the address, the officer's name, and the time of the initial stop. The journalist opens a laptop. Within 40 minutes, 2 news vans will park 1 block from the precinct entrance and not move until morning. Inside the building, in a cubicle down a hallway that smells like old coffee and correction fluid, Sergeant Teresa Vance has been in the Internal Affairs Unit of this department for 9 years. She has filed 3 formal memos on Dale Pruitt. The first 2 were routed to the reviewing officer, the captain's brother-in-law, and returned, marked insufficient. The 3rd she filed 6 months ago, and it has been sitting in a queue ever since. When her phone rings at 11:47 p.m., and the caller identifies themselves as a federal agent from the Office of Professional Responsibility, Teresa Vance does not say anything for 3 full seconds. Then she says, "Tell me where you need me." She clips a recording device to her collar. She is at the station in 18 minutes. At Quantico, a senior official is on the phone with the city's chief of police. He is careful, political, and experienced. He has not personally spoken to anyone at the FBI in the past 2 years. He is about to understand that this has been a mistake. The call lasts 4 minutes. When it ends, the chief of police does something he has not done at this hour in 6 years. He calls Captain Odom directly. 7 minutes remaining. In the room with the metal table, Dale Pruitt sets down a coffee he did not offer to share and sits across from Celeste Mora. "Here's the thing," he says. "The system flagged your vehicle. We were doing our job. The system," she says, "returned a confirmed federal law enforcement plate within 4 minutes of your query. You transported me to this facility 16 minutes after that confirmation." Pruitt shifts. "I've been counting," she says. "Would you like to know what I've been counting?" He doesn't answer. Failure to state grounds for stop. Failure to respect federal law enforcement authority. Unlawful detainment of a federal officer in the execution of her duties. She pauses. Violation of 18 U.S. Section 111. Violation of 18 U.S. Section 1501. Another pause. "Would you like me to continue?" "Lady." The door opens. Captain Richard Odom fills the frame. Behind him is a man in plainclothes who is not a city officer. Behind that man is Sergeant Teresa Vance from Internal Affairs, who has a recording device clipped to her collar and the expression of someone who has been waiting for this night for a very long time. Odom is pale in a way that has nothing to do with the fluorescent lights. "Officer Pruitt," he says. His voice has changed. "Step outside." Pruitt looks at him, looks at Celeste, looks at the man in plainclothes. Celeste straightens her jacket. She folds her hands on the table. She looks at Dale Pruitt with the calm, patient, specific attention of a woman who has spent 19 years watching people understand, too late, what they have done. "The man standing behind your captain," she says quietly, "is Special Agent Ronald Hicks from the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility. He drove here from the federal building in 22 minutes. Pruitt's face strains. "The phone call your captain just received was from the chief of police. The phone call your chief received was from the deputy director of the FBI." She stands. She buttons her jacket. "And I want you to know, I want to make sure you hear this very clearly. The reason I did not tell you who I was at the curb is not because I was testing you. I was not testing you. I am telling you this because the next person you stop will not be an FBI agent. They will be a woman driving home from her second shift, or a man going to see his mother, and they will have the same right to dignity that you refuse to extend to me." She picks up her credential case from the table. He had left it there. "I want you to hold that thought for the rest of your career, however long that turns out to be." She walks out. Dale Pruitt stands in the room alone for 11 seconds. Then he sits down very slowly, as though his legs have just remembered they are tired. The cascade begins before sunrise. By 6 a.m., the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility has opened a formal investigation into the stop, the detainment, and the conduct of both officers. By 7 a.m., an attorney from the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division has requested the complete personnel files of Officers Dale Pruitt and James Colt, Captain Richard Odom, and 3 reviewing officers from Internal Affairs, dating back to 2015. By 9 a.m., the 9 dismissed complaints against Pruitt have been elevated to a federal review panel. By 11 a.m., the footage Sandra Mora captured from the parking lot, clean, unedited, 28 minutes long, has been reviewed by the special agent in charge, the deputy director's office, and the offices of 2 United States senators who sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee. It is released publicly at 2 p.m. By midnight, it has been viewed 6 million times. Dale Pruitt is placed on administrative leave without pay pending investigation. His supervisory review is suspended indefinitely. 3 of the colleagues he contacts that afternoon do not return his call. His union representative picks up on the first ring and then says very little for a very long time. James Colt submits a full written account to Internal Affairs within 36 hours. He names everything he witnessed. He names it precisely. He will later describe the decision as the only thing he did right that night. He is temporarily assigned to desk duty while the review proceeds. He requests a transfer to community outreach and is approved. Captain Richard Odom retires. He does not announce it publicly. He submits his paperwork on a Thursday morning and cleans out his office before the afternoon shift comes in. The 3 dismissed complaints he personally signed off on are referred to the Federal Review Panel. His pension is under administrative hold pending the outcome. The Internal Affairs reviewer, who dismissed Pruitt's 2021 complaint, the captain's brother-in-law, is suspended and faces a departmental ethics investigation. The reviewing structure of the department's entire Internal Affairs division comes under federal oversight as part of a consent decree negotiation that will take 14 months to finalize. 3 weeks after the stop, Celeste Mora completes her wiretap authorization and moves to the next phase of her investigation. The city council member is indicted on 12 federal counts. The deputy sheriff resigns 2 hours before his own indictment drops. Celeste is not at the press conference. She is already in another city, in another rental car, watching another parking lot where 2 people who do not know they are being watched are making the mistake that will end them. 1 month after the stop, Celeste delivers remarks at a federal law enforcement forum in Washington. She does not read from prepared notes. "I want to be direct about what happened and what it means," she says, "because most people in my position do not have what I have. I have 19 years of service, a federal credential, a government vehicle, a wife who is a former Army counterintelligence officer, and a direct line to the deputy director of the FBI. Most people driving home at 11 o'clock at night have none of those things, and they have the same right to be treated with dignity that I was denied." She pauses. The mechanism that allowed a decorated officer to hold a federal agent in a detainment room for 22 minutes while laughing is not a broken system. It is a system that worked exactly as it was designed. It investigated itself and found nothing 9 times. The question is not whether one officer was held accountable. The question is what accountability looks like for the structure that made him. She closes with one line, delivered quietly, without drama. "I kept a log, 48 entries in 20 years. I kept it because documentation is the only language institutions are required to understand. Start keeping yours." 2 years later, Dale Pruitt pleads guilty to federal charges, including deprivation of rights under color of law. He is sentenced to 26 months in federal prison and permanently barred from law enforcement in any jurisdiction. He will owe $84,000 in restitution. He serves his sentence at a medium security facility 3 hours from the city, where he spent 11 years building a career. James Colt completes his transfer to community policing. He starts a quarterly meeting with neighborhood organizations in 2 districts. He is not forgiven by everyone, and he does not ask to be. He shows up. Teresa Vance, the Internal Affairs sergeant who clipped on her recording device and drove to the station at midnight, is promoted to deputy chief of the newly restructured Oversight Division. She tells a reporter once that she had been filing paperwork on Pruitt for 3 years. "You need the right case," she says. This was the right case. Sandra Mora watches the sentencing on a live stream from the kitchen of the house they own in Maryland. She does not celebrate. She makes coffee. When Celeste comes home that evening, they sit on the back porch in the dark, hands touching, not saying much. There is a lot that does not need to be said. 48, Sandra says, after a while. 48, Celeste says. She is already thinking about 49. Because she knows, the way she has always known, that the log does not end here. The system has shifted, slightly. The oversight is real. For now. The consequences landed, this time. And none of that means the next woman behind the wheel of a government car is safe from the next man who holds her credentials up to the streetlight and says, "Where'd you print this one?" Until the structure changes, Celeste says, almost to herself. Sandra squeezes her hand. Someone has to be watching. If this story stayed with you, if you felt the weight of it, the anger, the relief, or all three at once, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because Celeste's story is not rare. The log she kept for 20 years, 48 entries long, is not an anomaly. It is a record. And records only matter when people read them. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been in a moment where you had to decide whether to say who you are or stay silent to survive it? We want to hear from you. Your story is part of this story. Subscribe for more accounts like this one. True stories of people who refused to be reduced to what someone else assumed about them, and what happened when the truth came out. The truth always comes out. We make sure of it.